All right, you loyal listeners. Welcome to another episode of Agents Influence Podcast, Conversations with who? JCass, and here I am today with Mr. Garrett Droege, who is just like, hold on, let me tell you what it says on LinkedIn. It says Director of Innovation plus Strategy, InsurTech, Advanced Industries, Web3 plus Digital Risks. There's no better way to say it than exactly as he wrote it. Mr. Garrett Droege, welcome to AI Podcast. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Jason. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So just going back, I'll tell you guys a little backstory real quick, loyal listeners, because I always love for you to have what's really going down. Today, it is October 28th, a couple days before Halloween. One of those holidays that people like me say, why do we do this? And other people are just, it's their favorite holiday. It's amazing, this holiday. It's a really, really interesting one if you think about it. But we're on today is October 28th. We were supposed to record this 2 days ago, and we started, and we were about 3 minutes in, and water came gushing in. If you're watching YouTube, you can see that I'm in my studio, and water just came gushing in the wall. It was crazy. We had this torrential downpour, and the gutter backed up. It was crazy. I didn't even know what to do. Like, Garrett, when we were on, I was kind of like, when it started happening, like, I'm just sitting there, like, looking at it for 3 seconds, being like, is that water, like, coming in my ceiling right now? So
I thought it was like a super meta thing to drop into a podcast of, like, what's more insurance than a water leak?
Yeah, right. I was like, holy cow. All right. Now, loyal listeners, so we got off. And then actually it was supposed to be on Tuesday we were supposed to record that. So then we rescheduled it for whatever. But here's something Garrett doesn't know. And loyal listeners, you guys are all going to learn this. Garrett, God is my witness. You can call my wife and ask her. I get out of this thing. I finally get this stopped. Me and my wife go outside. We're in raincoats and stuff trying to get the gutter unclogged, and then it unclogs and it all goes down and everything's good. I go inside, I'm like, okay, I'd already ate before we were going to do this, so I get my stuff on, I'm going to go back to the office, and I get in my car, and I start it up, and I hit reverse going out of the driveway, and I stop to, see if there's any cars coming, and water just gushes out of the top of my car all onto me. I'm like, what in the Sam hell is going on? And I guess this has happened when I first bought this car. I didn't know this, but all sunroofs leak. They're made to leak because they leak. And so they've started making them leak, and they have these little drainage things. And this drainage thing in my Infiniti keeps getting freaking blocked up. And so it backs up, and if I go slow as I drive away, it'll drain out the back one. But if I go quick, it just gushed me. I'm pulled back in my driveway. I'm like, what in the hell is going on right now? And then I went to my office and told my people in the office. No one hardly ever believed me. So that's how that was. The loyal listeners, that's how it was. I'm glad
it's finally happening.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Like you guys care, because I know you do. Garrett, welcome to the podcast, loyal listeners. Here's the deal. So how I got hooked up with Garrett, as you guys know, I always am following people, listening to people, and seeing things and somehow Garrett got into my feed on LinkedIn, and it had to do with an image. If you go to Garrett Droege to his profile, you can see it on there. He got a post that, basically, essentially, LinkedIn-wise, this was viral. It's 1,200 people engaged on it, lots of comments, tons of reposts, and it's the one of Nadal and Federer where they're sitting there holding hands, crying. And it was the message that you put on it, Garrett. That was really what kind of got me, because this picture is a pinnacle of what healthy competition looks like. And I think especially in this polarizing world we get into today, political and not political, it's very polarizing in the way our thoughts are today. I thought it was really, really compassionate. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on, man. Anything you got to say about that? What inspired you to you saw that and said, man, I got to share this thought?
Yeah, that's just how I'm wired. I've been that way forever. And that's how we as a firm operate. We have worthy rivals in this industry. We share information with them. They share information with us. You can learn things from anybody if your ears are open. You can't learn anything if you think you do everything well, or you're operating from a place of fear, trying to hold on to all your trade secrets. It's just not it served me well by offering up, here's what I'm doing, and I'd love to know what you're doing if you've had the similar experience. And I think what people miss is, you can't copy and paste Jason Cass, right? You could give me your playbook and I could not execute on it just like you could. I could maybe do a couple of things similar, but vice versa too. It's totally, you can't copy and paste me. So I'm not worried about telling you, here's how I'm doing it. And so that's just how I'm wired.
I love it. Take us back, Garrett, so we can introduce and get related in, so that the audience and loyal listeners can relate to you. Take us back. Where were you born?
I was born in Columbia, South Carolina, and I lived there for about 3 weeks before moving up to North Carolina.
Graduated college whenever. Take us back to about that age and bring us forward to where you got to you are now.
Yeah, a weird background. So I finished school at University of North Carolina at Wilmington. Okay. Theater major. So not remotely prepared for insurance industry. Had no intention of ever being here. My wife and I chased some jobs out to Los Angeles, lived out there for a few years, decided, you know what, we want a house. We want that doesn't cost $2 million for 700 square feet. We want to start a family. It's not going to happen out here. So we moved back east. I took a role with an insurance firm. I thought I'd do it for 6 months, and 20 years later, here we are. So
wow. So what was your first job that you did there at the insurance firm?
I was a producer, retail brokerage, small boutique firm. I came into it not knowing anything about insurance. However, along the way, if you know anything about acting, you're out of work more than you're in it. And so I started a software company while I was acting, just doing freelance software development. So I knew tech. I taught myself how to code in college. And when I came into insurance, that was the one area where I felt strong. I was like, I can talk to tech companies because they're young like me. I can speak their language. And so I built a pretty large book in the tech sector, and that's gotten me where I am today. So I used to run a global broker network called TechAssure. It's brokers that specialize in technology-related insurance. Again, my background served me well for that. I joined IMA, which was a TechAssure member last August. Okay.
And so what do you do for them exactly?
Great question. I wear a lot of hats. So half of what I do is InsurTech innovation. So I'm always out looking for the next big thing. Who's building what? Can we plug it into the tech stack that we have?
Interesting.
And so we're involved in broker tech ventures. That kind of falls up underneath that role. Again, that's retail brokers that are all stood up an accelerator program for InsurTech, specifically for broker facing technology. And again, going back to that picture in Nadal Federer, that's the whole group's mentality. If you look at the makeup of that group, it's kind of the top tier independent retail brokers in the country that are all part of that group, that are all sharing really deep information about how system configurations and, leveraging contracts, how we're working with different companies. That group wouldn't exist if we were all fearful of competition. So,
and when we're trying to make change and forward momentum in the greatest industry God ever created, it's so obvious now how it blows my mind that we couldn't see this in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s or whenever. Don't share, don't tell that to anybody else. They may find out. That's so good for that one person, but so bad for the industry and probably the consumer, whoever's trying to get the solution provided by the technology or the system or whatever. And now we give away all of our information that we know of each other, and we all do better. It's just now thinking about it, it goes to what Kennedy says: all rising tide rises all ships. Right? That's the mentality that was kind of set forth that you're talking about now.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be here. And think about everything that you've learned in this industry. You learned it from other people, and probably some of your competitors, probably people that you felt like were better at you in some way, where you sought out their advice, or how are you doing that? I remember the first TechAssure conference I went to. I thought I was a pretty good producer. I was putting up six figures consistently, and I was like, I'm pretty good. I'm top 1%.
Yeah.
And I sat down at dinner with a guy, and he was literally doing 5 times my book number in new business.
Wow.
And I was like, I don't know if you'll share it with me. I'd love to know, because you're not working 5 times harder than me. And he gave me a strategy that I've used my entire career. You know, it was just such a simple thing that maybe I would have found at some point, maybe not. But just the fact that he was like, oh, I sell one account and suddenly I grow my book by 40. So, yeah, I'm sure I piqued people's interest in what that is. This was specific to working with venture capital, private equity, where it's like he worked a lot with venture capitalists. He'd sell them on his concept, and then suddenly the entire portfolio fund would become his client. So one sale turns into 40 new clients. And I was like,
gotcha.
That makes more sense. So,
gotcha. Interesting. The little I know about that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. What the hell is Web3?
Web3 is, just think of it as the future state of the internet. That's the best definition. You know, we've got Web 1.
Let's say Web 1 was what, Garrett? Just from a high level here. What would you say?
The internet. Say
the internet.
The 90s internet when it first came out. .com.
Okay. So what would be Web 2.0 when we got social and could do commerce on it and stuff? Would that be?
Nailed it. Social media that's when users started supplying the content rather than the companies themselves supplying the content. Users started supplying it. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And we're kind of in Web 2.5 right now. We're not fully Web 3. Think about blockchain, metaverse, DeFi, all this stuff that pockets of that exist today, but it's not fully fleshed out.
Right.
We're in think of like what Twitter's doing with profile pics, where you can have an NFT as a profile pic. Right. That's kind of Web 2.5. They're using elements of Web 3, but it's still in the.
Gotcha. Yep. Wow, you make that so easy, Garrett. Loyal listeners are like going, okay, dude, I kind of get that. I mean, that's a high level, but just Web 3. And you know it's the Web 3.0. It's just hard. It's 2006, and someone says there's a device that's going to give you all the answers to the world and that fits in the palm of your hand. And you're going, what? I don't understand how this is working. Like, even me, I'm a tech. I consider myself a tech guy in the insurance industry, right? Not outside of that much, but it's like, I just have a hard time figuring out how the blockchain chain and DeFi and all that. Would you say we're going to be in 1.2 would you say we're in Web 2.5 for a while? Or are you going to just slowly start to see more Web 3 and then all of a sudden you're going to wake up one day and it's all Web 3?
It's going to be slow. You know, we got a decade probably before you start seeing blockchain fully deployed across all enterprise. I mean,
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that. So, I mean, really, Garrett, when you think about it, like 10 years ago was 2012, and I was telling people in 10 years it's going to look like this. And some of the stuff I was right, most of it I was wrong, right? But the stuff that I was right, you could kind of see was built on trends of nothing more than trends that you had seen and over the last 5 or 10 years, but not so much in your industry, but also in other industries, right? And so I wonder where this is and how it is going to change insurance. I mean, are people really going to be, paying with Bitcoin? I know that sounds crazy, but if it's not so, let me ask you this, Garrett. It's not so much that the fact they're paying with Bitcoin, it's that they'll be able to use some kind of wallet or something that would be able to interact with the insurance company to make the payment possible. Am I right about that?
You're right. And we actually have clients that could pay in Bitcoin. They could write their policy terms in Bitcoin, right? So you're paid in the asset that you want to be collecting in. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You know, but go back to, mid 2000s. I remember, there were a handful of us on Twitter at the time, like 2007. They were like Ryan Hanley and I were trading barbs on Twitter. We were like, no one was listening. It was tumbleweeds. But I think we both had the same idea of this is going to be the future for business, not just insurance. Like this is a platform that's going to be hugely important. And I don't know about his boss at the time. Mine was like, this is child's play stuff. This is not, we're never going to do anything on this. And I kept saying, we got to invest in Facebook and Twitter. Instagram was not a thing yet. And it was met with the kind of rolling the eyes and side laughter. And people are doing that right now with metaverse, with blockchain, with Bitcoin. And I'm saying the same thing. Like, you can't count this stuff out, because look at what the kids are doing. You got kids around the same age as mine are. What are they into? They're into Fortnite. They're into Roblox. They're into, that's their entire entertainment ecosystem is metaverse related. They're used to trading digital assets. Like I like this backpack cost me $20 on Fortnite, and I can trade it with a friend who has some kind of dance that I don't have. And we look at that going, that's crazy form of commerce, but that is the future of business as well. Whether you want that or not, it's coming.
Let's talk about something that just closed yesterday with the close of Twitter. And I know you being a tech person as you are, I've read a lot about these about his ideas, about Elon's ideas of what he wants to make Twitter, right? And I think it's WeChat. Am I right about that? The one that's in China. I think that's the one he talks about one a lot, that he says it's only in China and it needs to be replicated. You can buy movie tickets on there, sports tickets. It's a social chat. And I haven't seen what he's talking about. Where do you see this going?
I mean, there's back to the example of putting profile pictures as NFTs. There's no reason you couldn't trade business on Twitter, except for the fact that, unlike Facebook, the algorithm is such that you'd probably miss a lot of your target audience because things get buried quickly. I don't know enough about that model to say I think that's a good idea. I know he's going to start the pot because that's what he does. And he's going to try and he's already shaking things up, cleaning out the C-suite. And so who knows what's going to happen there. Surely they're going to try different business models. You don't spend.
Well, I love. I mean, what's been echoed, and I think it's only common sense. Is like he says, to get rid of the bots, the users are going to fall, and when that happens, it's going to collapse the stock price. So we got to take it out of being public. We got to drive it private, clean it all up, and then bring it back up. Yes, there's a payday for him as well when he launches it back. But like he says, he's like, if we actually go in there and he's like, and we clean out as many bots as we think, we're going to have half the users we do, and our freaking price is just going to drive into the ground. And it's like, it works to his advantage, but he's willing to take the risk to do it. I truly also believe that it's something he likes to whip people up and get people excited, just like anybody does. But I don't think that he will be. I don't think you will see much difference in the First Amendment regulation that everybody thinks. I think he's just going to allow this thing to be the Wild West. And at the end of the day, people have to understand he paid $44 billion for this thing. He needs it to be freaking, profitable. And you can't do that when you got the government on you all the time, because you're just letting it be a Wild West. So you've already seen just in the last 24 hours, he's already put out statements going, oh, well, we're not going to do that and this, and it's like, so that's how he likes to do. But
I think he's going to play with it for a couple of years, and then he's going to get tired of it, and he's going to hire somebody to do it, and it's going to go back to looking a lot like what Twitter was before the purchase. That's just my cynical take.
I like it. We need to benchmark that. We won't bring it up if you're wrong, but we'll bring it up if you're right, Garrett. Be like,
you heard
hey,
it here
he called
first.
this like 5 years ago. Some bitch look, they're bringing the bird back. It looks like Twitter. It's not X anymore. So and then he's going to name it X, which I just thought was really, really crazy. That doesn't surprise me though, especially with his kids' names. That guy's got some wild kid names, man. And, I was talking with my landlord of my agency where we rent, and he said something to me, and I think it was true. I really never thought of it that way. He said, you know what, with that Elon guy, Jason, as an older gentleman, he said, I've been alive long enough to realize that you only get usually one of those people in a lifetime, and I thought that whether you like him or not, I mean, the dude just creates weird shit and says, yeah, let's get it done, and gets it done. I was building
but don't you think we have 3 of them at least? You've got Bezos, right? I mean, he's not as public with his eccentricities, right? I mean, Elon likes trolling things publicly and, like I said, stirring the pot. But I mean, both kind of genius in terms of how to build.
So. I would also. Good. This is a great discussion, Garrett. I would also say that Bezos really made a lot of money just on basic things that were needed, right? Like being able to sell me books or me buying certain things that I have to have. At the same time, Elon is great by a lot of subsidies that was given to him. And he got a lot of protections, right? By the government would say, okay, since we're investing in you, nobody else can compete against you so that we can get the, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not down any loyal listeners. God, there's some loyal fans out there. They're like Beyonce fans out there, these Elon Musk fans. I mean, so I'm not down on them. I'm just saying that sometimes when you look at that, the thing I like about him, and I just think that Bezos, I think, had a strength of really putting smart-ass people around him, and the flywheel concept, that whole thing, that was fucking genius. Oh, excuse my language. But anyways, the Elon, though, he does crazy shit. Like, he's like, yeah, we're going to buy a boring company, and I'm going to bore a tunnel underneath Las Vegas and Los Angeles.
And then he'll just... But then he shut down the company. Like, okay, that's probably not going to work. We're done. We're going to move on to something else. You're like, how many billions of dollars did you just piss away, and you're fine with it?
Yeah, but on the boring company, I think he's found something now. Have you been to Vegas and been on the what's it called, the Tesla Speedway or whatever? So they have he bored a freaking pipe from I can't remember what casino all the way to the other end. And you can drive, you get in these Teslas and there's no one driving and you're inside this tube and you fucking haul ass to the other side. And they're going to try to bring these out into the casinos, which if you walk around Vegas, this would be a very needed thing. But think about that. These electric cars are just driving people around. And we knew that, right? That could possibly happen, but we didn't think that there would be underground, which is just...
Yeah. Well, that's been my theory, is that
my mind, man.
We're never going to reach a point, or it's not going to be for 50 years, when all the cars on the road are smart enough to have a truly autonomous experience on the highways. We're either going to have to go above or below. Like and above is the obvious choice, right? To bore under the entire United States would not be possible, but skies are open, lower than planes fly. We could create a whole flying car ecosystem up there, which we got clients that are working in that space. And
there's a lot of flying car companies that are out that are producing things. I mean, I would be willing to bet there's hundreds of them across the world that are all trying to tinker with trying to make that happen. And, one thing that Elon said when it comes to stuff like that, this was really, really mind blowing to me. I saw this on TikTok. He was giving a speech and he said that he gets upset when he hears somebody say, well, technology will just continue to get better, right? Like as the world goes, technology just gets better. And he says, there's nothing more wrong than that. He said, technology gets better when a bunch of smart people work really, really, really hard at something to make it happen. And he said, to give you proof, he said the Egyptians made the pyramids, but they can't frickin' tell you how to do it, right? They can't tell you. Somebody built Stonehenge, but no one can remember how to tell you to do it. Why? Because technology just doesn't keep going on, or the Egyptians would be the smartest in the world. Someone stopped with technology with the Egyptians, and then they stopped and they forgot how they did all the shit. And so when he said that, I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, that is really, really smart. Like, dude, you are smart. You know what I mean? I would love to sit around and smoke a couple joints with the guy. I mean, really, truly. I mean,
I'm sure he'd be game.
Oh, dude. But yeah, and Rogan got to do it. That would be like, because the guy's just already out there. You wouldn't even have to smoke with him, and you'd think, like, what planet is this guy on, So, yeah, no, it's really interesting. So, sorry, loyal listeners, as we went on 7 million rants halfway across the world under the town of Vegas. Now we're back. So, strategy when it comes to the So here's the last kind of one of the questions I want to go here. Somebody says, Jason, your kids are going to buy like what they're using right now, right? Like some guy said about 4 or 5 years ago, he said, your kids are going to want to buy on an iPad or a screen. That's what they use today, and that's what they're going to want to use. So I think that's cool, and I'm not disagreeing with that. But what I want to know is if my kids are now sitting on, what is it, Roblox,
Fortnite.
I'd never heard of that until 2 days ago, and I've heard of it 3 times. Fortnite, all of the Horizon. How long do you think it's the ability for my son to say, why can I not just put on my headphones and walk over to the insurance agency and talk to my insurance agent, right? Why can't I just do that stuff? How far away do you think that is, Garrett?
Well, yeah. Why walk over there at all? You don't have to leave your bedroom, right? And we're close. You look at the HoloLens. You look at the new Oculus. These they have external cameras on them, so it's picking up on you. You and I could literally be in the same room right now if we both had HoloLenses, and I would see you. I would see everything about you in my office. And we could have a conversation about my insurance program. We could record a podcast. Doesn't matter. So that technology's here. It'll be a few years before everyone's wearing it. I think when Apple comes out with their augmented reality glasses, which probably early next year you're going to hear about them, that's going to be the game changer for people. Because we were all the phone was the thing. People were like, you'll never be watching YouTube or videos, movies on a phone. You'll never be buying products on your phone. That just couldn't exist. You'd say the same thing about glasses. When I could walk down the street, whether I'm there physically or I'm there virtually, and see what restaurants are there. I'd be able to order Grubhub by actually going into the restaurant in a virtual environment, looking over the menu, deciding what I want, ordering it, paying with my retinas, and 20 minutes later it shows up at my door. Instead of me sitting down and waiting for it at the restaurant, it just comes to me.
Right. And I think, and I love it, dude. Thank you for painting that. And then the other things that we don't think about, Garrett, right? I want to get your brain on this. Like, okay, you're walking down the street to go to the place to order. Let's get back in that little scenario you were painting there. And as people are maybe passing you because they're in their own little world, which is in my world, which is overlapping little world, I think we'll be able to know what they're thinking, and we'll get to know more about them easily, right? Like there'll be something over their head that would be like, I'm just making this so simplistic here. That would be like a color that would show the mood they're in, right? And you'd be like, oh, that dude's pissed. You know what I mean? And as they're walking by you, and then, or like maybe the person is like, hey, I'm looking for someone to hang out with. So they got that over their head, right? You're like, oh, that person wants to hang. Like you literally could kind of get to know people just by walking down the street. You could stop and click one of them and find out exactly who they are, right?
Yeah. Well, how is that any different like when the internet first came out than the online chat room, right?
Right.
We found these new communities that we didn't even know existed, but you're like, man, these people are into the same weird shit that I'm into, and they don't live around my neighborhood, but I found them on the internet. It's going to be that, but in overdrive.
It will be in a visual. I mean, I'm so excited. And the reason I'm excited is because I'm not that old, right? Like if I was like about 85 or 90, I'd be like, God damn it, I'm going to miss it, but if it's like, I'm young enough that I'm like, I'm going to be able to see this shit, Yeah. And then, and I'm really excited about that. Getting off on another rant, space is the same way. Whenever I saw, these guys go up into space, Blue Origin and all these guys and Russell Brandon, I thought to myself, I told my wife, I said, those guys paid $250,000 and they got to go to space. I said, by the time I'm 65 or 70, the shit's going to cost 25 grand and I'm going to be able to go to frickin' space. You know what I mean? Have you thought about that, Garrett?
Yeah, we were talking to a company literally this week that has a spaceship that is set to sail next year, and they're sold out. Tickets cost $100,000 each, and they're sold out for the entire year. Every run that they're taking. There's a huge demand for that. I think it'll be less than $25,000.
Yeah, I agree too.
I think it'll look like a plane ticket. Once we perfect the technology, there's more competition. I think, a couple grand, that'll get you to low Earth orbit.
I mean, come on. I'm excited about that. I didn't think that 5 to 10 years ago that I'd ever be able to go to space. I mean, I'm like, man, this is, I just get excited about that stuff. I really, truly do. And thank God there's
I'm going to let other people go a couple times before
Lots. I want a couple million to be going before I'm going up there, right?
There you go.
Mean, yeah. No doubt. Those guys are smart, unbelievable smart. There was something else I was going to add to that, and I can't. But anyways, Garrett, this has been a fantastic phone call, man. Well, it wasn't a phone call. What the hell are you talking about, Cass? We're doing a damn podcast. But anyways, this has been a good podcast. I really enjoyed it. I hope loyal listeners have. It's at 30 minutes. I didn't even realize that. Time goes by when you're going, having a good time. It goes by fast. Garrett, anything you want to wrap up with, buddy?
No, we'll bring it back to the beginning and say, don't be afraid of competition. Don't be afraid of sharing your best stuff with other people. You might learn a thing or two.
That is the truth. A life of abundance and one not of scarcity, right? I think that's exactly what we're saying. So if we just realize that there's enough insurance for everybody and everybody's way works, we can only make our own ways better by learning of the other ways that don't work for us but work for somebody else. That's how we're going to learn. And thank you very much, Garrett, for bringing that forward to us. Hey, you loyal listeners and everyone that's out there, you know what I do because I do it for you. Tell me your thoughts and tell me your ideas, and I'm going to tell the world what you have to say. This has been Cass. He's Droege. We're out.